Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today, I'm going to be taking your questions on getting ripped off, swapping coils, a really bad rattle, and more. This is episode 159 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. All right, in order to get a question on a show like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com. Put question for Charles in the subject. Be sure to ask the question right at the top. Hit the enter button a couple of times and then give me all the details about your question. That so much helps me answer your guys' questions. It really makes it a lot easier. Also, if you don't see your question on a video like this, be sure to check out the quick videos playlist on YouTube. That's where I generally take my iPhone and answer one question per video. All right, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, which is CRP Automotive. CRP deals in a ton of OE maintenance and repair parts, timing belt kits, suspension components, and even fluids. In fact, they make the factory DSG fluid for Volkswagen and Audi. So check them out at crpautomotive.com. All right, let's get into the questions. First one comes from Raul. I took my 2011 Chevy Cruze for a check engine light, and it was the EVAP purge valve connector. It said the wiring was broken. I took it, and they said it was around $35 for the parts and around $100 to $150 to install. I get the bill back for $250. Do you think this is reasonable or should I fight back? Seems way too high for a $30 part. All right, Raul, we got a couple of things going on here. First of all, I hate that this happened for you. These situations really stink no matter whose fault it is. Whether it's the service department that charged you incorrectly or whether it was, you because you didn't pay attention to what the bill actually said or the repair order actually said. These are really sticky situations. But let me clear one thing up really quick right off the bat. Just because a part is $30 does not mean it's easy to install. In fact, here's a really great example. We had a hybrid Touareg that had a recall on it. What we had to do is remove the hybrid battery out of the trunk to install a $4 little piece. It's a little check valve so that if water gets in the spare tire well, or the battery well in this case, it'll drain out. So it's like a 3-hour job for a $4 part. So the cost of the part and the cost of the labor don't always go together in any way, shape, or form. It could be a really expensive part and 5 minutes of labor or 5 hours of labor for a $4 part. But here's the thing that you need to really pay attention to. So when you bring your car into a reputable service place, even a place that just, as long as they do business above board generally, you're going to fill out paperwork. This paperwork should have an estimate on it. You are going to sign your name authorizing the dealership or service department or wherever to work on your car. At this point, you're also authorizing how much money you're willing to spend. So if you say, okay, it's a $30 part, they tell you it's $100 to install it, your total should be, ding, 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 $130. Well, add tax onto that, but you get what I'm saying. There's an amount that the bill is going to be. Typically, if you're within like $10, it's not that big of a deal. If you're spending $1,000 and it's $1,010 or $990, nobody's going to lose any sleep over it. But we're talking in this case almost double of what you were expecting. So you need to go back and look at your repair order, see what it says. Maybe it said $250 and you just didn't catch it. We need to be really careful on where we point fingers and place the blame. If we missed it, that stinks, man, but you missed it. If the service department charged you wrong, you have documentation that says, look, it was supposed to be $130. And you can go back to them and hopefully get some money back. That's absolutely what I would do if it turned out that I was in the right and they were in the wrong. You probably should have caught this before you paid the bill, though, and brought it up then. That would have been the easiest time to get it taken care of. Service departments, anywhere, any industry has its crooked side, right? Automotive does, everybody. So one of the things as consumers and customers of these places is we need to be diligent and make sure that everything is on the up and up. If we signed a paperwork that said it was going to cost $100, we get the bill and it's $200, that's the best point to stop and say, hey, you charged me wrong. You said it was going to be $100. It's $200. I'm not paying the extra $100. Go back and look at your paperwork first, and if there's discrepancies on something, they charged you more than they said, then it's time to go back and hopefully work out some kind of resolution to it. But I get nervous when people say, well, it's a $30 part, it should have only cost 50 bucks. Well, we don't know, right? We don't know how hard it was to get to that part. This could be incredibly easy, or it could be 5 other parts have to be removed in order to get to the one you're replacing. All right, next one comes from David. I have a 2003 GTI 1.8 turbo. I was buying replacement spark plugs and saw a conversion kit to enable the use of the 2.0T coil packs. The claim is an increase in horsepower, and I'm wondering if you've heard of this and if there really is any increase in horsepower, and is it safe? Thanks for the show, David. All right, this question does actually come up a lot, and what basically we're doing is we're taking the ignition coils from, I don't know, a 2010 2-liter turbo and putting them in an 03 1.8 turbo. Is this dangerous? Is it going to cause your car to explode? No. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to fail faster, or maybe your car won't start at all. That's the worst thing. I guess the worst thing is one could explode and catch your car on fire, but the worst real-world thing is those two things. Does this increase horsepower? Man, I don't know. The only way you're going to know is to only replace those coils, right? Everything else stays the same. You don't install new spark plugs with it. You only install the coils. Maybe, right? This is a big fat maybe. Unless I could see a dyno chart and knew exactly what happened, I would have to go with a maybe it increases horsepower. I think the rub is that like the older ones were a lower output voltage and these are a higher output voltage, so the theory would be correct that it would give you some performance increase. If I were looking at this, I would buy this because it looks cool. It really does look cool installed on a car, but is it going to increase horsepower on a base stock 1.8 turbo? Maybe, like big fat maybe. I think you'd do better to do some maintenance on the car. That would probably give you more improvement overall health of your vehicle than putting this kit on. But it looks really cool. You know, I'm sure there's a ton of you guys watching right now that have done this. If you have actually dynoed your car and have the before and after, I really want to see that. If we're just talking about the butt dyno, that's cool too, right? It feels faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it did anything to increase horsepower, especially on a stock car. Now, if you have a highly modified car, you may really see the results from something like that on a car that has a lot of mods to it. All right, next one comes from Steve. I have a 2010 GTI with 115,000 miles. 7 weeks ago, I had a local VW dealership do some service on it. They said they noticed a small leak from the water pump and replaced it. 2 days ago, while driving it, the engine cut out. Screen that said low oil pressure, engine off, and a red thermostat warning light came on. Had the car towed to the dealership and they told me the drive running the water pump was broken and the only way to fix it was to install a new engine to the tune of $7,300. Oh, I realize you have no way of examining the engine or parts involved, but does this sound like a reasonable scenario? Any thoughts you have would be most appreciated before I have to decide how to proceed. Steve, man, that sucks. So this is what my guess has happened. This is a 2-liter turbo. It's a 10 GTI. This is the chain-driven GTI, right? So the balance shaft that's driven by the chains on the front side of the engine, that shaft goes through the block. On this end of it is a little gear that turns the water pump. And what has happened in pretty rare cases, it's not very common. I've never seen one at my dealership, but I've heard of some other people having this issue. It's that the balance shaft actually breaks. So it'll, break right in half. Your engine's still rotating, but your water pump's not turning. So it causes a pretty quick overheat condition. Is it suspect a little bit that it happened 7 weeks ago, that you had a water pump put in it and now you have this problem? I'm a little nervous that may be the case. You really do need to look at these parts, and one of the things I would recommend in making this decision is go to the dealership and have them show you what's going on. Have them show you the failure point. Because maybe it doesn't need a new engine. Maybe it just needs a balance shaft. You can get these balance shafts separately from the whole engine. So maybe it doesn't need the entire thing. Maybe it was a workmanship issue and that pulley wasn't tight all the way for the water pump. But before I decided to spend Whew, $7,300. I would definitely want to see the exact point of failure. This could be something that, was, again, workmanship. It could be something that's just a complete fluke and it was going to happen anyway, or maybe the balance shaft was sort of wonky and causing the water pump to leak. Maybe there was some vibration in it and that was causing the water pump to leak. A lot of scenarios. Something like this is definitely worth working your way up the chain at the dealership. Talk to the service manager, talk to the service director if there is one, talk to the general manager. Be cool, don't go in there screaming and yelling. You're probably going to get less help than if you're kind of cool about it. So it's a reasonable scenario for sure. It could absolutely have happened that way, exactly the way you explained it. It could just be a complete fluke, but I would want to know everything about it, and I would want to go deep into the diagnosis and see exactly what happened. All right, next one comes from Jeremy. Hey, Charles, love the videos. They've been very helpful for many things. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. My question is, do you have any clue what this rattling, ringing sound might be? I really have no clue of what it might be, but the RPMs are normal. They do not bounce or anything. Also, it has no misfires. Please help. This sound is very annoying. Well, let's take a listen. Wow, that is that is a heck of a noise on the top end of that engine. I'm surprised it's running and not misfiring at all. So first thing that sprung to my mind is that this car doesn't have any oil in it, because that's really what it sounds like. It sounds like it doesn't have any oil in it. It's probably the timing chain. Again, it's weird that it's making such a loud noise and not having any misfires or check engine light. You said that there's no misfires, but double check the check engine light, because it may point you straight to a timing chain that's stretched out. That will a lot of times cause check engine lights, whether the chain's stretched or whether the tensioner is about to just, grenade, basically. If you're hearing that noise coming from the timing cover side more so than the back side, it's kind of hard to tell in the video. Then I would definitely be looking at the timing chain. You can pull the upper cover off pretty easily and check your timing and see if your timing's right. Also, again, double check engine light. But dude, you gotta get that fixed ASAP. That is a very, very unhappy noise. I'd hate for you to delay on it and cause engine damage and actually be in a much worse position than you are right now. Right now, hopefully you got an opportunity to fix it. Check your oil level, because that could easily cause this issue. I'm just surprised that we don't have a check engine light associated with it, but sounds top end, sounds liftery, valvey, that kind of thing. I've seen a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but I've seen rocker arms come off on these 2 liters. Get some oil in it, get the check engine light checked, and go from there. But I would really highly, super high, way high, don't drive this car unless you absolutely have to. If you're gonna take it somewhere, I'd really recommend getting it towed, just in case something crazy happens. I hate for you to break down on the side of the road due to catastrophic, that's right, catastrophic engine failure. All right, got time for one more. This one comes from Craig. Trying to install the drive belt for the water pump on a 10 Tiguan 2.0T. I replaced the pump and can't loosen the bolt for the drive gear. Please help. Thanks, Craig. My all data says the bolt loosens clockwise. Seems to be driven by the timing belt. I don't want to damage the belt. All right, Craig, so this is kind of along the lines of the question we had a couple questions ago about water pumps. This again is the same chain-driven 2-liter turbo. So the water pump is bolted to the front. As we're looking at the vehicle, or as the engine's oriented with the vehicle, it would be towards the front of the vehicle. If we count it like an engine is, it's on the side. And it's driven by a little tiny belt. The belt's like this big. And the belt is attached to the water pump on one side, balance shaft on the other side. And your all data manual is correct. This is a counter-threaded bolt. It is a reverse-threaded bolt. So the old lefty-loosey, righty-tighty is the opposite. Righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, which just sounds weird to say. So it's opposite. This bolt can be very, very, very challenging to get out. It's counter-threaded, so your brain's kind of working awkwardly. It's so different than, you know, all the other bolts, or like 99.5% of the other bolts. Also, you really do need to counter-hold the crankshaft so that you're not just rotating the engine when you try and turn that. I've seen that happen a fair amount of times. And tip, big, huge, important, giant tip. If you are doing that and you're holding, counter-holding to loosen that, I think it's a 12 millimeter headed bolt, be sure to take your ratchet or your breaker bar off. Otherwise, bad things happen. Ask me how I know. I've seen it twice and experienced it through the grapevine about 5 or 6 times. So be sure to take your ratchet off of it. The best wrench that I've found to get those loose without causing a little bit of awkwardness, because of course, right? Of course, this is a bolt in an unhappy spot if something happens. It's reverse threaded. It's not very much room to get to it to begin with. It's also a little bit softer of a bolt. So you know, all the universe is working against you. Actually, a snap-on closed-end box wrench has been the best possible thing. We've actually had to stack wrenches where you take one wrench and then put another wrench on it to give us enough leverage to get that loose. So it can be really, really tight. But your all data manual is correct. It's counter-threaded. Also, tip on the water pump, be sure to torque it properly and in the right order. You want to make sure you follow this exactly, because I've seen a lot of water pumps leak due to workmanship, and part of me feels like it's because they've not been torqued properly. So be sure to torque it properly. But yeah, all data's right, man. That bolt just can be, it can come right out and it can be a pain in the butt. Now you can sneak the water pump around without doing that. You can actually kind of stretch the belt and wiggle it over the gear on the water pump. It's not my favorite thing to do, but you definitely can do it. So there may be other options to get the belt on without having to mess with that bolt. Anyway, that is also a one-time use bolt. So if you remove it, be sure to replace it. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, you know what to do. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. All right, guys, hey, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Oddly, it is late. It is 9 o'clock. Normally I shoot these on the morning, but this one's a later one in the evening. So the drink of the day is the same as in the morning, so I can stay awake to edit. Coffee!